Hello, and welcome to a new part of Demon Soul. Last week, Gideon had just got the dark shadow and put it in a box. This week, I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but we can discover it in chapter 5. So here we go! Demon Soul, chapter 5. Gideon left the room with the box where the dark shadow had stopped to fight. It knew that it would have problem to move freely now that everybody was aware of its existence. Brownie gave his baby bottle to Sahel. He was still stroking his ears from time to time, mainly when the burning wood was cracking in the fireplace. His wings were back to blue, but from time to time, flashes of pain were crossing them with brown. Brownie put a blanket around his ears. While gaining this power over air element, they would become extremely sensitive. She walked to the table to take the Raise Your Baby Demon book. She wanted to read the chapter dealing with hair one more time. She couldn't afford to make any mistake, as it would have a disastrous effect on Sahel's health. When she noticed the pen Gideon had left on the book, she smiled. Her stone was now wrapped in two small demon wings. Gideon had probably spent hours on that, she thought. She moved it in front of Sahel, who was drinking his milk, in her arm. Now he would hold the baby bottle by himself, giving Brownie a free hand. She took the book, went back to the armchair and started to read. Chapter 4. Hair. The hair is the weakest of the 5 elements. However, it is not less dangerous, as it can't be used or mastered without acquiring cleverness. Brownie smiled, looking at Sahel. He was going to be very clever for sure, starting with the hair power. The hair element gives demons the ability to control wings of any kind, but also to carry his spirit in time and space. It is the most spiritual power. Brownie turned few pages. She was more interested for the moment at what she was supposed to do to have Sahel go through this safely, than about what Sahel would be able to do once he mastered the hair. She started to read again. During the acquisition of the power, every single cell of the baby's skin will become extremely sensitive to the environment, especially his ears and eyes. It is a necessity to make sure that the baby won't be subject to any loud noise or bright light, to ensure that he won't lose his hearing and sight. It would be given extra care to avoid the baby to scratch himself. If not, he will continue to scratch until bleeding, or even worse. Following were some pictures of baby demons who had scratched themselves until the muscle appeared. Brownie turned the page quickly. She didn't want to think that something so horrible could ever happen to Sahel. No way. As he tried to reach his eyes with his hand, she took it and hid it under the blanket. She did the same thing with the other one, and held the baby bottle for him. "It's going to be just fine, sweetie," she said, more to convince herself than for any other reasons. Sahel gave her the encouraging smile behind the baby bottle, and Brownie started to read further. The easiest way to ease the pain the baby will experience all over his body is to place him in the middle of wind. However, it should be made sure that his body temperature never drops below 39.5 Celsius degree, because the consequences would be dramatic, and so on. Here the reader was referred to the very first chapter of the book to learn about all the deadly consequences if you were foolish enough to let your baby in a too cold place. Brownie had already frightened herself over it once, and had read this chapter so many times that she was under no need of being reminded. Another way is to use a Tara cream preparation. Tara was a Tibetan female Buddha in Vajrayana Buddhism, and she is also known as an Indian Shakti, or female divinity. She is associated with the air element. Brownie skipped the part giving the explanation about Tara to arrive to the point where the book was explaining about the use of the cream. The Tara cream must be applied on wet skin, while being very careful to avoid the face and hand of the baby, as eating it would be very dangerous. The paragraph was giving more detail about What would happen if the baby was to accidentally eat the taro cream? Then follows a list of ingredients. It took 2 pages, but nothing that couldn't already be found in the house. And it explains the way to perform the ritual. The ritual form felt very strange to Brownie. It didn't involve any pentacle, it seemed more like a Buddhist prayer. Sahel had finished his baby bottle and was starting to babble. "What about going to see the world today?" Brownie asked. "How would you like that? We need to get you a lot of things about your new power, and Gideon is a bit busy with your dark shadow, so today it's just going to be you and me," she added. "Gideon, Brownie," Sahel said and giggled. Brownie got up and hung out the 2 blankets near the fire. "First we need to get ready, because it's a bit cold in the house, and we don't want you to get cold, right?" Brownie said, planning the visit to the house like she would have done an expedition. "Right," Sahel repeated, nodding. Brownie smiled, still amazed how fast he was learning and growing. She opened the wicker briefcase on the table and started to take her sewing stuff out of it, making sure that Sahel wasn't grabbing anything dangerous and stopping him each time he was trying to scratch himself. "You see, that is going to help us carry everything from the kitchen, so that I can make the cream tonight when you sleep. It would be easier if I didn't have to carry you as well, but I can't leave you alone here, of course. That's out of the question," Brownie said with a very serious tone. Sahel frowned, mimicking her serious face. Brownie laughed. He was looking so funny that way. He put his hand up to his eyes and moaned plaintively when she took his hand away again. She started to blow on his face, making him giggle. "I know it's painful, but it won't last long. I'll ask Ethan to put the fan here, and you will be okay in no time." She put the book in the briefcase and wrapped Sahel in the 2 blankets which had been warmed up by the fire, making sure to protect his ears and that his hand wouldn't go up to scratch his face. She took the briefcase. "Let's go." Brownie too was used to the 39.5 degree in the secret room, and the 22 degree maintained in the house were freezing cold for her as well. She walked in the corridor to her bedroom and left the briefcase on the bed and sat in the middle of a group of pillows. He was looking at her as she was looking for something in the bottom of her wardrobe, wondering miserably why he couldn't go with her, and trying to make his hand escape from inside the blanket. After a few minutes of research, she finally extracted a pair of white small earmuffs that she showed to Sahel. "Do you like them? I use them every time I want to be able to hear what I'm thinking. This house can be very noisy, and I don't want you to get sick, and they are also very warm." Brownie stroked the earmuff quickly with her hand to warm them up before putting them on Sahel's ears. As she picked him up, he snuggled furiously into her. She stroked his hair softly and kissed his forehead, making his wings turn pink. "Was I so far away for so long?" she asked. Sahel didn't answer, the earmuffs protecting him from the noise. He just continued to cling at her. She stopped by the baby room to get some socks. The room was animated by all the little ones waking up, and as soon as she arrived, Ayokele flew to her, looking for a hug. She left the briefcase and grabbed the little boy with her free hand. "You were gone for so long," he said, not even looking at Sahel. "Sorry, Ayo, I have to take care of Sahel for the moment," Brownie answered. Ayokele threw a look at Sahel. "He looks funny," he said. "He has the same wings as you, but different color. Is he a demon too? Why does he have white things on his ears?" "Yes, he is a baby demon, and his wings change color with his mood. You see, for the moment, it's pink because he's happy, but a bit brown because it hurts," Brownie answered, avoiding talking about you. "Oh no!" Ayokele stroked the baby cheek softly, looking miserable. "I don't want him to be hurt." "He will be fine, Ayu, don't worry. I just have to take him somewhere very warm and take care of him a little," Brownie said. "Maybe you can help," Ayu said, his face brightening. For him, you was still the answer to any sort of problems. "Not this time. I need another sort of magic," Brownie answered. "But Gideon will help." Gideon is great too. Ayonkunle nodded, remembering when Gideon had repaired the cube castle he was building with Arthur and Kuzana after Yubi had destroyed it. I need to go to the kitchen now, Brownie said. Me too, Ayonkunle answered all happy. I need to have breakfast. He put his 2 hands on his stomach, his wing flapping to make him fly at the height of Brownie's face. My tummy is making lots of noise, he added. Let's go, Brownie said, grabbing her wicker briefcase on the floor. In her arm, Sahel was looking at Ayo and babbling like for telling him a full story. Brownie walked to the kitchen with Ayo, telling her everything, which had happened while she was hiding with Sahel in the library. Apparently, Mikala had finally gotten mad at Yobi for tearing apart all the music book she had left for Minho on the piano. Apparently, as Gideon wasn't here, it had taken them the entire afternoon to put them all back together before starting to play again. Minho was crying a lot that day, which made Yobi laugh even more, and Mikala had gotten furious and had locked Yobi alone in the room where Mum is hanging the clothes. Apparently, Saphir had to go free the poor Yobi, and he had stayed quiet for the entire evening after that, and Mikala didn't talk to him at all. She had to learn the hard way, Connie thought for herself. She was amazed to see how Hayo was feeling bad for Yobi getting punished so severely. He was such a nice little boy. When he stops being sick, can he come play with me? Hayo asked, looking at Sahel, whose wings had turned browner. Of course, Brody said. I'm sure you'll be great friends. They entered the kitchen. Brony left Sahel on the baby chair and prepared Ayokunle's toast with jam. Sahel was babbling miserably, trying to get his hand out of the blanket, making the chair swing dangerously. I'm here, Brony said, coming back to him. He likes you a lot, I think, Ayokunle said, swallowing a big piece of toast and spreading some strawberry jam all around his mouth. I know, Brony answered. She knelt a bit down, putting her face just in front of Sahel's. I need to get the ingredients. That won't take long. Will you stay calm if I free your hands? Sahel looked at her pudding, and she started to take his hand out of the blanket. As soon as they were free, he tried to scratch himself again, but Brony put them in the socks, laughing at Sahel's expression while he looked at his hands. Why do you do that? Ayokunle asked. Brony opened the book and walked to the cupboard looking for the ingredients. Because he will be even sicker if he starts scratching himself, she answered. Just like Leo when he had chickenpox, Ayokunle asked. Yes, Brony answered, hiding spice in her briefcase. A bit like that. She closed the book, put it in the briefcase, and walked to Sahel, who was looking at her sadly. She picked him up and cradled him. I can't carry you all the time, you know. Sahel moaned plaintively. Brony. He was starting to get a bit cold. The blanket warmth had gone. Brony knew she had to hurry back to the secret room in the library. Brony added 2 lemons and some mint leaves in the briefcase and kissed Ayokunle's cheek softly. If you want to see me, ask Gideon or Ethan. They will show you where I am, she said. Yeah, Ayokunle said, all smiling. It's sad here without you. I'll be back soon. She kisses the little boy again and walked out of the kitchen with Sahel and the wicker briefcase toward Ethan's bedroom. She knocked at the door but didn't get any answer. She knocked again, more loudly, and entered. Ethan was still asleep. She put the briefcase on the floor, sat on the bed, and shook him softly. Ethan, get up, get up! I have something to ask you. Ethan yawned and shrugged his eyes. Hey, what do you want? Then seeing Sahel first, he sat up in his bed. What? Brony gave him a few seconds to awake before asking. Can you bring the fan in the library? There is a secret room in the 2nd floor, in the demon section, and Sahel is starting to get his power over here, and I need some warm wind there. Ethan yawned. I'll come later after breakfast. He lied back down, but Brony started to shake him again. I would like you to come now, because if we delay any longer, it might get pretty hurt. Ethan looked at the baby demon, who was moaning plaintively. His wings were now all brown. Okay, I'm going, he said, sitting up. Give me a few minutes. Thanks, Brony said, getting up herself. See you there. Without waiting for an answer, she rushed out of the room to the library and sat up near the fire with Sahel, trying to warm him up and blowing on his face to ease his pain. Being a baby demon is pretty hard, isn't it? She was wondering if it would have been as difficult for Sahel if she had herself been a demon. Demon females were probably able to keep their baby warm without need for a fire, and could probably make them feel better more easily. Cradling Sahel, she would probably have fallen in self-pity if Ethan hadn't entered the room with two fans, followed closely by Raphael. These two were really making a great team. "Whoa, I can't understand why you need fan here. It's as warm as the hell," Raphael said. "But why do you have a fire in the chimney in the middle of July? Are you sick or something?" "Sahel can't warm himself up until all his power have manifested, so I need to maintain the room temperature around 39.5 degrees, Brownie answered. "So that is my new little brother." Raphael came closer and knelt near her, looking at Sahel. "He's way cuter than Luna described him." Brownie sighed, blowing on Sahel's face. Ethan was looking for a plug to install the fan. "I can't believe you slapped her," he said. "I didn't mean it," Brownie answered. "It just happened." "I can't understand that. Seriously, sometimes I have to dig my hands in my pocket not to slap some people," Raphael said. Ethan laughed. "Come help me instead, or you will scare the baby." Raphael stood up and walked to the table, preparing the second fan. "But that's true. Luna always comes to ask me stuff for her fairy, and talks to me as if I were stupid. Seriously, she pretty needed one. I'm just annoyed that I didn't do it myself, because she would have left me alone." Ethan shook his head. "So where do you want them exactly?" "I don't really know. I just need a warm wind in the room, nothing colder than 39.5 degrees. It will help Sahel pain." The little demon was trying to scratch himself through the socks. "It would be easier to fix in your room," Ethan said. "I'm sorry, but my room is way too noisy for him. Getting his power over here makes his ear very sensitive, and he could go deaf if there was too much noise around." "Whoa, that's really complicated," Raphael whispered. "Is that why he's wearing those earmuffs?" "Yes," Brownie answered. "I wasn't really prepared to have him around, so for each new problem I need to figure out something in emergency." "Well, if you knew the infantile disease first, that would be way easier," Raphael said. "Like when Mum made sure everyone caught chickenpox after Leo, in 2 groups. That was brilliant." "That was just because it's very dangerous, especially for boys, to get it when they grew older," Ethan said. "Everybody in the house would have caught it anyway, except I." "But still, that was brilliant," Raphael said, plugging the first fan and carrying it in front of the fire. "You may want to step back a little," he said to Brownie. "Actually, I know the infantile diseases for the baby demons. Just I don't have time to prepare in advance, as I don't know which one will arrive first." Raphael switched on the fan. A light and warm wind flied straight to Brownie and Sahel, making him feel better instantly. "You'll show me?" Raphael said, smiling, "and I'll prepare for you." "Whoa!" He opened big eyes. "Ethan, look! His wings are changing colors!" Sahel's wings were starting to take a slightly blue shade. "He does that in function of his mood," Brownie explained. "They were brown because he was in pain, now they are becoming blue because he's resting. I think he will fall asleep as soon as he can feel perfectly well. At least that way you know what's going wrong," Ethan said. "The problem is going to be to maintain the temperature. I think it will be better to make a loop with the fire, or it will start a drop." The boys started to debate about how they should place the fan for a better optimization of the temperature. Brownie let them talk. She was confident that they would take the best decision possible. After about 10 minutes of debating, the fans were placed near the fire and facing each other so that the immediate warm air would arrive directly to Sahel. "So now, what else can we do for you?" Ethan asked. "You said you didn't have time to prepare for the next problem, but that you know what it would be, so—" "Well, it's in the briefcase," Brownie said. Raphael opened it. You held up a grocery or something? That's for the cream I need to prepare, Brownie answered. Look at the book, chapter 3, 5, 6, and 7. Raphael looked for the book in the middle of the spices and the lemons and took it out. Brownie came to look at it above his shoulder. After a few minutes of reading about what they should do, Ethan said, Well, as he won't have any hair problem once he got his power on hair, we can possibly prepare everything else in your room. Yeah, that will probably be a bit noisy, so it would be better over there. Which is the next power he should get? Raphael asked. I really don't know, Brownie answered. Well, we can take Ether out for sure as he will need to be older, Ethan said. Which leaves us with water, fire, and earth, Raphael continued. If we fix the temperature first, and the water in your bathroom, that shouldn't take that long, Ethan said. How long do you think we have? Raphael asked. Well, this one is going to take 3 or 4 days. Between it and the tear period, he only had 1 night rest, so not really long, Brownie answered. That will be enough, don't worry. Ethan smiled. We are expert. Yeah, Raphael said. As soon as the baby's ready, the room will be ready. Brownie couldn't dream about finally being able to sleep in her bed again. They heard books fall in the library, followed by voice, and Gideon appeared in the entrance of the room. Brownie, can you keep him for me? He's driving me nuts, he said. He was holding the box containing Sahel's dark shadow, who was pushing on the side so strongly that he had problem to maintain the top closed. I don't want you to steal me. That's nuts. I have rights. If we were in the demon world, you would see how it goes, the hungry voice said from inside the box. What is that? Raphael said slowly. Sahel's dark side in a pretty bad mood, Gideon answered. He is very tiring, repeating himself over and over again. He sighed and gave the box to Ethan, who had come for help, but added before letting go. Don't open it. Even just a little, no matter what he said. If he escapes, we'll be in big trouble. Ethan pressed as much as he could on the top of the box. Don't worry, it's safe with me, he said. I wonder what he looks like, Raphael said. He's just like Sahel, but with black hair and black eyes and grey skin and no feet, Brownie said. And a freaking annoying temper, Gideon added. He walked towards the door. I need some books, and he made me make a mess that I need to clean up as well. Raphael ran after him. I'm coming to help. I love to watch you clean up. I still don't get how he does it, Ethan said, putting the box on the table and pressing firmly on the top with both hands. Don't try to figure it out, Brownie said. It's magical. Sahel had finally fallen asleep in her arms, some flashes of brown appearing in his blue wings from time to time. Still, there must be an explanation, Ethan said. Gideon had just to raise his magic wand and to point at the thing to make them all fall back to places. Sometimes, if they were broken, he had to do some complicated moves, but always fix everything in the end. Ethan was annoyed when Gideon's only explanation for it was that he had to visualize it going back to place. Ethan had tried, but no matter how much he visualized, he always ended up having to carry the things to where they belonged. When Gideon came back, Ethan gave him the box back, not unhappy of getting rid of it, and Gideon just put all the books on the top of it, making it very difficult to move. Let me out! Let me out! The dark shadow was yelling, but nobody cared to answer to his deadened voice. What is there for breakfast? Raphael asked. Pancakes. Mom made plenty before going to work. I hope I'll find some left. We'd better hurry, Raphael said. I bet you didn't have breakfast, Ethan said to Brownie. I'm fine, she answered, not wanting to bother him more after having waking him up for the fence. I'll bring you some back, with chocolate as usual, he said, walking to the door. Brownie smiled. There was definitely some people in here she could count on. Can you bring back some milk too? Gideon asked. I'm a bit busy this morning. The bottle is on the armchair. Special bottle, I see, Raphael said, grabbing it. Yeah, prawn, he answered. He already has fangs, so he needs something strong to bite on. The boys left the room. Brownie took the earmuff slowly out of Sahel's ear. How is he doing? Gideon asked, whispering. Much better now that we have the wind, but I'll have to prepare some cream, Brownie answered. It really feels terrible to see him in pain all the time. It won't last forever, so just concentrate on that. He'll be fine pretty soon, Gideon said reassuringly. I'm still so scared of making a mistake, Brownie said. Don't worry too much. Look, he seemed pretty happy now, Gideon said, looking at Sahel. The little demon was mumbling in his sleep, flashes of pink color appearing on his wings. I like pink better than brown, Brownie said. Gideon nodded. In his box, the dark shadow was not calming down at all, and made the book fall. Okay, listen. If you behave, I'll give you a bit of fresh air. What about that? Gideon whispered to the box. Sahel is sleeping, and I'll get really mad if you wake him up. The dark shadow stopped a moment, probably thinking. I'm not making pact with human like you, he finally said. But for Sahel, that's okay, I guess. Gideon sighed. At least he would have a few hours of peace. He dug into his books, wanting to make the better out of it. Ethan came back half an hour later with chocolate pancake and a baby bottle. He apparently wanted to start in Brownie's bedroom as soon as possible, and Raphael was already gathering stuff. You're not afraid that they will make a complete mess in your room? Gideon asked as Ethan closed the secret room's door behind him. Well, if that can avoid Sahel getting too sick, I think it's totally worth it, Brownie answered. She had delicately left Sahel as comfortably as possible, sleeping on cushion in the middle of the warm wind, and started to eat her pancake. From time to time, the baby was trying to scratch himself in his sleep, making noise, but the socks on his hands were making it impossible. I can't believe you put socks on his hands, Gideon said, looking at him. Why not gloves? Because the socks go way higher on his arm, Brownie answered, with a full mouth. She swallowed before adding. The glove would be easier to remove. I got that trick from Mom. Brownie spent the rest of the morning and the entire afternoon preparing and measuring the quantity of the ritual elements, and making sure that Sahel was not too much in pain, while Gideon was looking for a way to seal the dark shadow. Let me out! He started to yell again. Gideon sighed. You said you would be fair, Brownie said. She was sitting at the table, cuddling Sahel, who was just starting to drink his baby bottle after recovering from another scratching creases. Okay, Gideon said. He left the books from the top of the box, pulling his magic wand out of his sleeve. He pressed it on the side, fixing the dark shadow to the box to make sure he wasn't going to escape before lifting the top. As the dark shadow rose from the box, in front of his eyes, Sahel started to clap and to giggle happily. The dark shadow felt very proud. Together they extended their hand to touch each other, but as soon as they touched, a blue flash of light went out of Sahel's finger and shook the dark shadow with an electric shock, scaring Sahel and making his wing turn instantaneously dark green. What did you do to him, you witch? The dark shadow began to yell. He is rejecting me! Instinctively, Brownie stood up and cuddled Sahel, telling him that everything would be alright. The little demon clung at her and snuggled his wing, turning slowly bright pink again. What are you doing to him? Are you crazy? Don't cuddle him! Stop it! Why are his wings so pink? They're supposed to be yellow! Yellow! The dark shadow yelled. You are making me laugh now! That's madness! Stop it! You're giving him so too much love! That's not good at all! You're making him weak! The dark shadow was pulling his shadowy hair. Stop it! Gideon laughed, followed by Sahel giggling and clapping at the dark shadow's behavior. His head was oblong now. What's so wrong with making him happy? At least he's not feeling too sick anymore, Gideon said. He is a baby demon. He needs to feel unloved. Love is bad. Make him sad! The dark shadow said, trying to push Gideon's wand. I think it's time for you to go back in. Say goodbye, Gideon said, pressing on the top of the box, on the head of the demonic shadow. I'll keep him happy, don't worry, Brownie said as the dark shadow disappeared in the box, fulminating. That's unbelievable, she added. "How could I ever want to make you sad?" she said to Sahel, tickling him and making him giggle more to cover the complaint of the dark shadow's voice coming from the box, which Gideon had buried under the book again. She remembered you telling her that a demon was used to feel unloved so long ago, with so much pain in his voice. She had held him tight, promising that it would never happen again, and surely that wasn't going to happen to Sahel. But Sahel's happiness didn't last long. Every scratch increase was worse than the previous one, and that evening Brownie had enormous problem to make him sleep after Gideon had left. He apparently found something interesting and was planning to go shopping the next day. He had brought Brownie the water necessary to apply the cream before leaving for the night. Brownie was really tired before starting the preparation, but she knew she needed to concentrate. She had measured and placed all the ingredients in order already. She sat in lotus position and lighted the white candle in front of her. She added the first ingredient in the bowl, visualizing the power of the candle being transferred to it, and she mixed. She continued with the second and the third until nothing remained. She could feel her energy escaping her body each time she made the spoon turn. The preparation was thick and creamy, as expected, and the smell of fresh mint and lemon was filling her nostril. She didn't remember how she came to the trance, but she saw herself back in a very dark corridor. She was dressed this time, but still barefoot and running. She had been there before in dreams, when Yu's soul had been torn apart from his body. But this time it was different. She was not alone. She was holding the hand of a boy, who seemed just a bit older than her, and he had demon wings, and she was pressing something looking like a bright purple light on her chest, a sword. She didn't know why, but she knew it was Sahel with her, and she was happy. She wasn't scared in that crappy place like before. It was like if she had finally completed after a long, long time. She woke up suddenly, an hour later, hearing Sahel's plaintive moan. He had managed to remove one of the socks, and was scratching his arm furiously. She picked him up and made him stop. His arm was getting all red, and he was also a mark of nail on his cheek, but nothing serious. She held him tightly on her chest, feeling happy that he didn't badly hurt himself. She didn't understand how he wouldn't have yelled, feeling so much pain. Baby demons don't cry, to protect themselves in case of danger, she remembered reading somewhere. But she was completely unstrung, facing the fact that Sahel couldn't even ask for help. Demons didn't ask for help. Everything came to them the hard way. She warmed up the water in the basin. The cream was ready to be applied on wet skin. She started to bath him. It saddened her to see that he was too tired and unhappy to make a big mess and play as he had done before. After the bath, she started to put the socks back to avoid putting cream on his hands. Sahel was feeling better already, and falling half asleep while she put the cream on him. The smell of mint was really strong, and the lemon sticking her eyes. She didn't know what to do about his wings, but they were flapping uncontrollably in his back as she put him back on his pyjamas. So she decided to leave them alone. They were so thin and so fragile that she was often wondering how they would ever possibly carry him, not like the strong angel wings in Isaac's back. She lied down on the carpet in the middle of the warm wind. It was feeling nice on her skin. No wonder it was able to heal. She pulled a cushion below her head and placed Sahel already asleep comfortably on her chest. It didn't took her long to fall asleep as well, but it didn't took her long to be awake on either. Sahel had turned on his side, almost falling, and was scratching his cheek with the socks-covered hand in his sleep. Brownie sighed and made a stop. She started to walk in circle in the room, rocking him slowly, repeating to herself, "I can't sleep. If I fall asleep again, he's going to hurt himself. I just have to walk and someone come to help me. That won't be long, that won't be long." But Dan was still a few hours away. When Gideon arrived with breakfast that morning, she was still repeating to herself, I won't sleep, like a zombie. "Are you crazy?" Gideon put the food on the table and came to her. "Give him to me." As soon as he took Sahel, she let herself down on a chair. "Make sure he doesn't scratch himself," she murmured before falling asleep on the table. Gideon shook his head and put Sahel on the sofa before covering Brownie with a blanket. This girl is really getting crazy. She can't leave him a second now. It's getting much worse than expected, he thought for himself. She probably stayed awake all night, and this room is a mess again. Brownie's material for ritual were laying here and there on the floor. Gideon pulled his magic wand out of his sleeve and started to clean up. Brownie was running in the dark corridor again, holding the bright purple soul on her chest and holding Sahel's hand. She didn't know how it could be Sahel. He was looking older than her, with very dark hair and a dark look. He was making her run fast, and her feet hurt on the wet floor, as if they were cut in several places. Still deep inside she felt it was Sahel. The corridor was cold, and she could see fire burning on chambers on each side, and hear cries that would have torn her heart apart if she didn't have a purpose to achieve. Suddenly Sahel stopped, put his back on the wall, and pressed her against his chest, wrapping them with his wings. Feeling him so close made her heart race. "Sahel," she whispered. In the room Gideon answered. "I got him. He is enjoying breakfast. Just relax." In the dream the older Sahel put his hand on her mouth to make her quiet. A group of demons walked out of the room next to them, and she felt Sahel pressing himself on the wall and pressing her against him. She tried to remain quiet, fearing to be discovered. Long minutes passed before she dared to move again. They started to run. She didn't know where they were going. The corridor seemed endless. "Bonnie, Bonnie," Sahel's sad voice awoke her. "She needs to sleep," she heard Gideon whisper. "If not, she will be sick. Be nice, finish your bottle. Look." Gideon raised his hand. White sheets of paper started to fly to him. He made them take the shape of little creatures and made it move in front of Sahel. But Sahel was extending his arms helplessly at Brownie, his yellow wings flapping in his back, as if he wanted to fly to her. "Bonnie, Bonnie," Sahel said again. She stood up and walked to him and picked him up. He snuggled instantaneously into her, his wings turning pink. Gideon said, "Everything was fine. You need to sleep. I could have taken care of him for a bit." "I know," Brownie answered. "You are doing great." She sat on the armchair, Sahel on her lap, and gave him his baby bottle. He couldn't carry it with the socks. It was still wearing, and the bottle had been sliding, putting milk on the side. "He needs a little bit of help today, you see," Brownie said to Gideon. "He had a hard night too." She yawned and closed her eyes, fighting not to fall back asleep. Sahel was not drinking avidly. "If you don't sleep, you'll get sick too, and who will be left to take care of him?" Gideon said. "This house is full of nice people." Brownie smiled and yawned again. "I was having weird dreams anyway. I'll sleep when he does, if you're still here." But she fell back asleep in the next few minutes, and Gideon held the baby bottle for Sahel. He left him with Brownie while pursuing his research until he fell asleep. Then he put him slowly on the cushion in the middle of the warm wind and pulled the blanket on Brownie's shoulder before going back to work. Locking the dark shadow seemed a bit more complicated than expected. It was almost noon when Brownie woke up again. Gideon was sitting on the floor near the armchair looking at Sahel. He made her a sign to stay quiet. Sahel was sitting in the middle of cushion, holding him, on the carpet. He had freed his hand from the socks and made little tornado appear. When he seemed happy enough, he started to clap and yell at his own magic happily, but the tornado disappeared as soon as his hand moved. He frowned and made it appear again, but it disappeared when he made his joy explode once more. Brownie smiled. So that's what it was all about. He looked so adorable. "Bonnie, Bonnie," Sahel said, hearing her speak, and he extended his little arms to her to be held. "His wings seem stronger too," Gideon said. "He'll probably be flying any time now." Brownie laughed. "He needs to walk first." She put the little boy up on his feet. "Do you want to try to walk?" "Walk, walk," Sahel repeated. She made him walk a few steps, holding his hand above his head. Sahel was trying to move, but he seemed very uncomfortable and put it, his wing turning slightly yellow. He wasn't in a mood to walk, but more for cuddle. "Just a bit more," Brownie said, encouraging. "You're doing great." But Sahel sat down looking miserable and starting to make another tornado appear, which was apparently not comforting him at all. Brownie looked at him for a few seconds before giving up. Okay, you win, come here. She held him on her chest, and he snuggled into her, giggling. You're giving up way too easily, I have to say, Gideon said. He's having so much problem for me to let him be sad on the top of it, Brownie answered. You'll regret it later, you'll see. Gideon pleaded again. Well, for the moment I don't really care, I'm just hungry. Brownie sat at the table where the breakfast was still waiting for her. Sahel on her lap tried to steal some food. You're hungry too? She said, giving him a piece of bread. Probably, Gideon answered. I was waiting for you to wake up to go get the milk. He walked to the door. I'll be right back. Are you feeling better now? Brownie asked Sahel. He was chewing happily on his piece of bread, without being able to cut it properly. I think you grew up again, she said. That's incredible. But I guess the bread wasn't such a good idea. You're just playing with it. He looked at her as she took the bread away and gave him his baby bottle instead. It was almost empty. As he raised his arm, the pyjama sleeve appeared to be a few centimeters too short. I guess we'll get you something new later, Brownie said, chewing in her toast covered with strawberry jam. Okay, that's all for today. Oh my god, I'm so tired today. I just keep on yawning during the video again. It's terrible. Anyway, I just hope you enjoyed it, and see you next week for chapter 6. Bye!